ref. That's he got the ball. Good evening, Tottenham fans, and welcome back to the Irish Hotspur with your boys Dave, Jack, Sam, and Johnny. And we are back. The boys took extensive holiday breaks, but now that all the holidays are out the way, we are hoping to run this once a week, and it is great to have the boys back. Of course, today's talking points, so we'll be flashing them up on screen now. They will flash across. We will be talking about James Maddison, his Postecoglou having him. He took him off a lot last season. He also dropped him from the lineup towards the end of last season and was sacrificed again at halftime the other day. So maybe a discussion around that. Also, it's Bill Nick's the anniversary of Bill Nick's passing today. Does he deserve a trophy, a long list of honors, or sorry, a statue? We're going to read out a long list of honors, and we're going to ask the boys, does he deserve one? Also, Djed Spence contract extension. Simply, does this suggest that Spence has a long-term future at Spurs, or is it more of a reaction to Real Madrid's reported interest in Porro? Ledley King also with a quote saying that Tottenham have always had players capable of winning any game, which I actually agree with. But why have Tottenham had that missing ingredient in translating that potential into consistent success and silverware? Of course, Ledley King, one of the last players at Tottenham to do so. And also the interest from Amanda Staveley as well in Tottenham Hotspur. What does that sort of investment look like? And will it be able to help us compete in the transfer market and the ability to compete with Premier League top clubs? Or is it going into Levy land? So we'll get the boys' views on that. And, of course, anything else that you guys want to ask, please put in the chat as we go along. Many ways you can get involved. Put your comments in. You can also send in super chats if that's what you like to do. Smash the like, subscribe, and also get over and check out the two boys' Twitter's account and also subscribe there and get engaged. But Jack, how are you this evening, sir?
Doing all right, Dave. Thinking about hopefully Daniel Levy can complete Levy land by the time we arrive in May to see Crystal Palace play. That would be lovely if we get to see the completion of Levy land at some stage. Get to talk about Amanda Staveley, whether that's anything to be serious about, but it always seems to be something around this time of year where, you know, rumors of potential investment and Daniel Levy maybe stepping away from some of the maybe kind of financial burden of running Tottenham Hotspur. This type of conversation always seems to come about around this time. So looking forward to see if it will be any different, whether we'll be saying anything different this time. But yeah, looking forward to another Spurs chat. It's been a while since we've had one of these with other people. You and I have been in our own little world for a little bit of time here. So it's good to have some others come in here.
No, 100%. And one of them others is the return of Johnny. Johnny, the superstar lately, been on Chris Cowling, last word on Spurs. I'm glad he can still make time for us little uns over here. But Johnny, how are you keeping, sir? Great to have you back, my man.
Forget my origins. Never forget my origins. There, yeah, keep it real. Yeah, well, listen, I don't have the hots for Amanda Staveley, but who would? But I've definitely got the hots for a consortium that might be willing to come in and inject some cash. As long as we don't jump out of the frying pan and into the fire, boys, you know. There's an old saying, be careful what you wish for. You know, whilst off the field is great, listen, look, things could be worse. They could be worse. He just doesn't know how to handle the fan base, you know, does everything wrong. So, but listen, we're going into this run of games in a positive frame of mind, and long may it continue.
100%. And look, we will get into it later on in the show. Also, back in action tomorrow against Alkmaar. You know, we need to win that and keep the momentum with bigger and tougher games coming up. And then last but not least, Sam, how are you keeping, sir?
I'm fantastic. Great to be back on with everyone. It feels like it has been more than a minute. So yeah, I'm looking forward to talking all things Spurs. Let's go.
No, I'm absolutely delighted to have you back, my man. And look, just welcome some people in the chat, and then we're going to crack on and get straight into it. Big up, Eddie. Good to see you. Great time to go on a run. Get rid of this Spursy tag that haunts us. If anything, Arsenal are more Spursy than us. 100% right. Well, the last few seasons they've been choke artists. Big up, John. Good to see you, my man. Hopefully you're keeping well. We've also got DB in the house. Great to see you, sir. Along with Eugene as well. Great to see you, my man. We've also got Q7 in the house. Connor in the house as well. Great to see you guys, Jack. Eddie has gifted out 10 Irish Hotspur memberships. Who have they gone to? Big up, Eddie. Really appreciate the support, my man.
Eddie's on fire. Very, very, very generous of him. He's gifted one out to Patty Hardnett, Michael Lee, Cornelius Day, Footballers to Go, Nick Knack, Mick Dundee, Simon Gooding, KIA Agent, and as well as Jason Kessler and then Anthony Colin. Big up to you guys, and thank you just so much to Edward for being so generous of late. Really, Eddie, really appreciate you. Like I said, save some for yourself. Get yourself a nice little boba tea. Take yourself out for a nice little meal. Maybe you and the parents, or you and a friend or two. Go out for some meals while you're enjoying Tottenham Hotspur and feeling good about the club and everything. But really appreciate you, Eddie. Thanks for making the community even bigger. Please take advantage of his generosity. Please, everybody, come on, have your say on the fan shows. Send in those fan cams. Take advantage of it. You can even send in your, questions at the end of this panel show as well. You're certainly welcome to do it that way. But please, everybody, take advantage of Eddie's generosity and being part of the community now.
Big up, Eddie. Really appreciate support. And everybody, make sure you say thank you to him. Absolute legend. We've got the Big D in the house, tuned in, fellas, just cooking up some dinner, creamy chicken pasta before Dave has. Now you are getting my stomach rumbling, my man. That sounds absolutely lovely. Bit of bacon or ham in there, make a carbonara out of it. Sounds lovely. Then we've got Gary Wellsby, evening, lads. We've got to build a strong squad, and players have got to compete for a first team place. But this also means they have to be given a chance, i.e. Djed, Spence and Dragon, etc. 100%, I would pose the question, should Timo Werner be left out of the European squad come January with Djed, Spence added in? But also Dragosin, I know his agent seems to be kicking up a fuss. I would argue he needs to sack him. He's not going to help his career too much if he keeps opening his mouth every few months like that. But I'd argue Dragosin has had his chance. He got sent off against Karabag after 8 minutes. I mean, if he didn't get sent off, he would have played 90-odd, right? So that would have been more minutes in the bag from him. To be brutally honest, I don't think he's took his opportunity. So when they have presented themselves, so some may say that's harsh, but he's got to displace Ramiro van der Ven at the end of the day. And then Theo Isaac says, "Good day, gents. Great to see you, Theo. Hopefully you are keeping well, sir." But look, guys, let's get straight into it, and we will start with some of the Amanda Staveley news that has come out today, and this is via The Athletic. Amanda Staveley's interest in a stake in Tottenham is believed to be genuine. If that interest were to lead to a formal bid, it would likely be for an initial minority stake with a view to possibly increasing that to a majority share further down the line. So they're outlining the intentions there. Spurs have been very public about their interest in gaining new investment into the club. However, they insist that as it stands, the buzz around Staveley investing in the club is merely speculation, and that is rumoured interest. The rumoured interest is yet to lead to anything formal. And it goes on to say Staveley is said to have formed a positive relationship with Daniel Levy. So we'll start with you on this one, Johnny. Staveley has been linked as a potential investor, as we've said, but how do you think that could change the club's strategy in terms of the transfer market or their ability to compete with the Premier League's top teams? Or do you think that they're merely looking to get involved with Tottenham, knowing that there is more to come to what is being dubbed by the fans Levy land, and that the money will probably more go into the infrastructure around Tottenham Hotspur?
I'm so conflicted on this one, guys, because first of all, Staveley being involved with Newcastle and the consortium there. She's come out and she stated, no one asked her, but she said, Newcastle are my love, my first love, and will always be my love, right? Well, that's great when you're coming to us, right? Okay. And you're trying to pitch up, at the lane or whatever you want to call it, the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Is she coming in and getting some free tickets and some free seats? Pitching. Look, I believe that she is putting together a consortium. She was involved in Manchester City. She's been involved in Newcastle. Her husband's very well connected. But what doesn't add up here, there are a couple of things. Joe Lewis refused to give Daniel Levy any more money for the club, which is why he had to go cap in hand to the city to try and roll in and get investment.
So is that why he's been out in interviews saying that they would be open to investment?
Correct.
Okay.
So my point is that why would Joe Lewis sell his shares and put that money, right? So as an investor, as a consortium, if you're giving, say for example, you're giving 500 million, just take a round number, 500 million. How would you want that money spent? Maybe pair off a bit of debt. Levy will want the money for the hotel and the ladies' development and the development of White Webs, but they will definitely want money invested into the team to improve the team. On the other hand, why would Joe Lewis sell his shares a percentage of his shares and not get any of the money, because he's not giving it to Daniel Levy. So if he was to get the 500 million in, take it, he'd want the money, or he'd want a large proportion of that money. So I'm a bit conflicted on how this would happen. I personally think this would be a rolling deal where it would be rolled up over, say, 5-7 years, where each year they acquired more and more shares as time went on. But I just want us to be careful that we're getting in bed with the right people. We've had so many top people try to buy in. We had Paluccia, who owns Atalanta and the Boston Celtics. He got staved off. Michael Bloomberg, Todd Bowley, Sheikh Jassim, Todd Bowley, and they've all fallen at the stage where he asked for full disclosure. And, if you're putting in that money, you want to be in control. And we all know that Daniel was a megalomaniac, or he likes to be in control. There's nothing wrong with that. He deserves it. Is he willing to give up control? I can't see it. So there's the conflict. A man who won't give up control but wants the money. You've got Joe Lewis, who's the majority shareholder. Does he really want to sell some of his shares to have the money reinvested back into the club? No, he'll want the money. So I'm conflicted at how this deal is going to work, unless they buy it in entirety, which would leave Daniel as the minority shareholder, and I can't see that happening.
Neither can I. To be honest, I don't think he will want to give up control. I think that's why they're looking for more minority investment, and I think I think it's minority investment without a view of them eventually taking over. To be brutally honest, I think if you're Daniel Levy and Joe Lewis, I think you're looking for the minority investment to be able to help subsidize the other stuff that they still have to build that came with the plan and permission in terms of the stadium, but also the likes of the hotel and everything else that's going to come with that. If you're an investor, I think that's where you sort of want your money to go to, prime retail in London, which comes at a premium, rather than that money going into the squad and really boosting our ambitions on the football pitch and really pushing us on to sort of compete with the best. I think you might get one sort of signing that will come in here, but I think that will be as far as they go. I just worry. I just worry that is that financial sort of boost really going to push us on to win trophies, which is ultimately what us fans want, Johnny.
100%. And listen, look, I don't think some of the deals that have been struck, I mean, the long-term 30-year Nike deal for £30 million a season is pants. Liverpool are about to sign a £60 million a year deal. I know they're Liverpool and we're Tottenham, but, there's a disparity between the two numbers here. I think he was quite desperate at the time. I think he needs the money. I really do think he needs the money. He needs the money for the hotel. He needs the money for the ladies, the development at White Webs. And in all essence, I do believe that he will need a bit of money for the squad. So he needs to relinquish something. And are they willing to get into bed with him? This is the thing. The fact that Staveley and Levy get on is kind of worrying because no one else seems to.
Jack, do you think that, obviously we know Staveley's trying to get friendly with Levy, right? Obviously to try and eventually broker a deal. But do you think Daniel Levy's also using that to get close to her, to be maybe kept on in some capacity if they do go for a full takeover?
I think Daniel Levy is interested in some type of investment. It's just he's probably very picky about where that comes from and who that, whose money is that, technically originating from. I think he's probably quite keen on, having a very close relationship, or at least really understanding who the other potential investor is, because he does see, I think, this club as well as all the real estate development around this club. He does see it as his project, as his baby, or as his child, really. So I think he is going to take it very seriously, whoever comes in. The way I see Staveley is, I think Staveley is going to be representing some type of consortium of investors. She seems to be the person that kind of finds the money, looks for, people who would be interested in something like this, and then she gathers them together and then sort of represents them as a whole, and then goes to someone like Daniel Levy and then is able to somehow negotiate some sort of deal, offer some type of charisma that can, interest Daniel Levy in getting involved and, like, Johnny said, sort of brokering some sort of deal together. My thinking is that Levy is probably desperate for some type of investment or some type of money, because I think the majority of his interest is in developing these ventures outside of the Tottenham Hotspur ground or something close to it, whether it's the hotel, Levy Land, more potential real estate development around the Tottenham area that he seems very keen on. I think that's where his interest lies. I think that's where he would prefer to spend his money, or at least where his money is coming from. I think that's where he'd prefer to spend it. And there still needs to be money spent in and around the club, like with the women's team, like with of course, the transfers, etc. And I think he probably wants just that extra bit of cushion, that extra bit of just backing and money that he knows doesn't need to necessarily come from him. I would assume that Staveley would probably be representing some sort of consortium of people that would be also relatively interested in, like, the real estate part of it. I think that's what makes Tottenham attractive, is that you're not just buying into a club that wants to win things. You're also buying into a club that wants to be different to the rest of them, where they are trying to make money in a variety of different ways. They're trying to be profitable, which is a rare thing when it comes to sports clubs. Usually most sports teams are not that profitable for the owners. Usually it's a losing venture, and Spurs are kind of in the opposite bracket, where they're trying to make it into actually a profit type of revenue venture. And I think Staveley is probably trying to get into that. Everybody probably wants to, get into what Daniel Levy is trying to cook here. But I think Daniel Levy is probably selfishly interested in having someone who can help with the burden of having to spend money on our football club.
See, where my concern comes in is anyone that looks to buy Tottenham Hotspur, they're not buying any ordinary Premier League club across the Premier League. You're buying a club that has a go-karting track underneath the stadium, that generates money 365, that hosts a lot of the big boxing competitions, music, you name it, they've got it, all the various different match day experiences. They looked at the stadium and said, I know what we're missing, people who can run down the side of it. They added that to it. They've got a hotel coming. So there's a lot more to come with Tottenham Hotspur. And I think when you look at Tottenham Hotspur as a whole, I think it's actually a very low risk for an investor due to the amount of various different incomes we have. But Jack, I suppose the follow-up question I have for you is, there's two sides to this. Some would say the grass isn't always greener on the other side, and like me, would be a bit cautious because I don't believe, like, if someone was buying, say, Aston Villa, for instance, you would think, right, well, they've only got the stadium and the squad. They're probably going to buy that to really push them on to go and win something and really have them as their toy to gloat about in their big billionaire meetings. But when it comes to Tottenham Hotspur, you can't necessarily say that's the case. So as a Spurs fan, should we be excited about potential investment? Because, look, a lot of people do have their problems with Daniel Levy, and some would argue it's a step to getting him out of the football club.
I think you should, for the most part. Whether you want Daniel Levy to have less power, less control, that would be the case. If someone comes in with even a minority investment, they at least still have some sort of say when it comes to something, whether it's the spending on the football club, whether it's the spending in and around the ground, whatever their interest and wherever their money might be headed to, they do have some sort of say. And if you want Daniel Levy to technically have less of a say, less power, that would be the case with, the minority investment. And then also, I guess the other reason to technically be excited is more money, right? More money then means that there is technically less of an excuse for us not to spend more on the squad, or for us not to spend more on the facilities, on the women's team, on the development of the academy. The money should be headed somewhere. It's not just going to sit still, at least we hope it doesn't, and isn't only just going to maybe some of the ventures that we don't care about, like the F1, like all that sort of stuff outside of the ground. But you would think that then the money is headed towards something regarding the club that we could eventually see the benefits of at some point in time. So for the most part, I would say it's positive. The only thing that maybe you could see it as a negative is if you care about where the money is coming from. Amanda Staveley, might be someone that might not have maybe the best of people that have a lot of money. My argument would be that the majority of people who have that much money in life usually have done some shady things in order to get there. And then the other thing too is you could say, like maybe what Johnny alluded to, or maybe what you alluded to, anybody that gets friendly with Daniel Levy and starts laughing, joking, and seeming to have a good time with him, that usually is not probably the best of signs for, let's say, people who really don't like Daniel Levy. That means they are getting into bed with him. That means they are finding like-minded issues or they're finding agreements over things, and they are, seemingly coming together on certain principles. And if that's the case, then you're getting someone that thinks similarly to Levy, and a lot of people don't want someone that thinks similarly to Levy. But for the most part, I would say they're positives. More money and technically less power in general for Daniel Levy if someone puts in a big investment.
Guys, let me know your thoughts on that in the comment section below. Are you excited about potential takeover talks, or are you concerned that we could get another owner who could do exactly the same to us for the next 20 odd years? Let me know in the comment section below. But Sam, Jack sort of brought it up. Nowadays there's a lot of sort of, I don't really know the right word, but you have one group who says, look, don't really care where the money comes from. It's all dirty money anyway. And at the end of the day, I'm a fan. I have no say. I have no power. I just want Tottenham to win trophies. I really don't care as long as that's their aim. Some people do care about, where the money comes from. As a football fan, should, considering we have no power or no say, should we really care where that money comes from?
Well, there's that advert, isn't there, online where it's a bunch of people in the pub and they're talking about how they're traditional club, they aren't pumping in loads of money, and then someone runs in and they're like, lads, we're getting taken over, and then it breaks out into like a song and dance where they're like, loads of money, transfer money, transfer FFP, the title is back on, and it's like, it's exactly that, isn't it? I think everyone will say, oh yeah, I don't care where the money comes from. But then if the money comes in and we start to win stuff, very quickly, I think you'll see people kind of turning their back on their own morals a little bit and sort of just accepting what it is. Look, from the position we're in now, I think that, this would be the ideal way to win trophies. And it would also maybe put some faith back into the sort of, I don't know what the word would be, but people always say football's corrupt, and it's, you need to spend the money, and if you don't spend the money, you're getting nowhere. So to be a club like us, and to do it semi-organically, look, I'm not saying that we're one of these clubs that has no money, because let's be honest, we're a top 6 Premier League club in London, and with that comes a certain amount of power, money, respect, whatever you want to put on it. Me personally, I would like to think that I would prefer to win it one way, but at the end of the day, I want to win trophies. You know what I mean? Like, look, I don't want to have owners that are, and I'm not, saying this for any particular owner that I have in mind. I'm just saying I don't want to have owners that are getting money from people trafficking or stuff like that. There has to be some sort of morality in it. You can't just sell your soul for trophies and glory, because it will all be marred by that sort of ethos behind it, right? Look, I think I agree with Jack on his point about Levy's kind of like pride and ego. I think that he will want to stay involved in it because they've devoted 20 odd years to this club. They've he's got his teeth, his claws, whatever you want to say, firmly wrapped around the money pot and around the club itself. But I also do think he gets a tough rap, and I'm not saying that because I'm a Levy in. I'm not saying that because I'm a Levy out. I'm firmly in the middle with that. I to throw another saying out there, I prefer the devil rather than the devil you don't know, and I think that's what Johnny's kind of alluded to before as well.
Yeah.
It's dangerous. You could go into it. We could end up doing a Todd Bowley and completely abandoning the sort of project that we've got inside the club, of bringing in promising young players. I know you could argue actually Bowley has brought in a lot of promising young players.
He's brought up half of Europe.
Yeah.
Half of the world, youth.
Exactly. It's like he's gone to like every kid's school team and gone, yeah, I'll take you and you and you.
Yeah.
You're Brazilian, I'll take you twice. So look, there's a lot of stuff that I think could go wrong with changing the owners. There's a lot of stuff that could go right. That's the risk you've got to take, whether you're risk averse or not. There is always going to be some sort of risk involved in this sort of stuff. Where I slightly disagree with maybe everyone on the panel is about this Amanda Staveley Levy friendship, because I don't know anything about
the new romance.
Yeah, romance maybe. Donna Cullen's been sort of kicked to the wayside, and in comes Amanda. But no, like, I think I obviously agree with you guys about, there's all this stuff about Levy, and if you're rubbing shoulders with Levy, there's something wrong with you maybe. But at the same time, I think what we hear is mostly, like, I'm not in the know. I'm just a kid in his bedroom that likes talking about Spurs, right, and likes watching football. But from what I hear, Levy is a very tough negotiator, and if you get on his wrong side, then it's kind of like all hell to pay. But if you are like-minded in the sense of you want success and money, and you can all get on the same page, then I can imagine that, they don't have to be exactly the same. They just have to be motivated by the same end result. So I think that's where the differential comes.
No, for sure. And look, if they are coming with a view of taking over Tottenham, and they come in and they want to make us successful, but by all means I'll get behind it. But they're going to have to put that out in a statement, in terms of before they buy the club and sort of what they're looking to do with Tottenham. Because, like I said earlier on, and I maintain it, I don't want to jump and sell to the very first buyer that comes in for Tottenham Hotspur, because like I said, everything else that comes with it, and all the stuff that still has to be built. There's a lot of stuff that comes with it in terms of different revenue generators and stuff like that. And every investor may not necessarily be interested in buying Tottenham to make them successful. They might be interested in buying Tottenham to take massive profits out of the football club. So, I do think, us as fans, although we don't really have a say, I think we need to be very, very careful and make sure they are coming to Tottenham for the right reasons, and we're not entering another 20-odd years of the same sort of period. But guys, does anyone else anything they want to add on the investment talks before we move on to the next subject? And everyone in the comments, let me know, what else do you think Daniel Levy can add to Levy Land? He's already done the unexpected with a football stadium, built a go-kart track underneath. He's already got abseiling down one side. So he's already doing a lot of the unexpected. He's now building a hotel. Let me know what else you think he can add in there. But guys, anyone on the panel anything else to say on the investment talks?
Just one last thing that I think people forget, whilst Levy did a genius act of restructuring the 670 million, 2.7% over, I think it's 25 years. Unbelievable. Because let me tell you, had he not done that, we'd be in some serious shit right now. Imagine that debt when you're paying out at 7% or 8%, like some of the clubs have got their debt now, where it's not fixed over that period of time. So, but there is still quite a large amount of money which is outside of that debt that would probably need to be paid off. So there is a chance that a proportion of that money would make sense to go off and pay off any debt which is outside that 670 million, pay it off now, so that when we get our money in, we'll actually have more income coming in that we can actually spend on the squad later on. That's all.
I'm confused on the last part there, Johnny. Just maybe clear it up for me. If an investor's put money into Tottenham, why would they sanction that money to go into paying Tottenham's debt? Where's the benefit in that for them?
Well, they might see if they're going to be long-term holders, and the debt, by paying off the debt, and say it's 6%, where they're paying for 100, say it's 200 million that's still outstanding on that. It runs out to quite a lot of money. If you're paying that off straight away, think about all the interest, you'll be getting that back quite quickly with the amount of money that's coming in from all the events. I'm saying that's a possibility that they would look to do that.
No, I just didn't understand it. Thanks for clarifying that, my man. I really appreciate that. But guys, keep getting your comments in as we go along, but we'll move on to the next part. We'll start with Ledley King. Now, I did pick a quote from an interview. He sort of asked about Tottenham, and what he said about Tottenham is that they've always had players capable of winning any game across most eras in his lifetime, which I actually agree with to a large extent. But Johnny, we'll start with you and work our way around the panel again. What do you think has been the missing ingredient in translating that potential that Tottenham have always had into consistent success and silverware?
Listen, I think there's an element of luck. Let's be honest. I mean, look at the last trophy we won. It came off of Woodgate's shoulder. Let's be honest.
Yeah,
look
true.
At the luck
True,
we had
true.
to win that. You know, the thing is, when you look at it, very few clubs actually win. You know, the other 90 odd clubs in the leagues are losers and prolific losers. I hear this all the time. When was the last time Newcastle won something? You know, when was the last time Villa won something? When was the last time? You could go through lots of clubs. We all want to win. Yes, it was very frustrating under Poch, kept getting to these finals and we just could never get across the line. Yes, I do believe it's believing you can win. I think if you self-fulfilling prophecy, if you believe you're going to win, your mindset can make you win. And if you believe the opposite, that, we're up against it today, you go in with that mindset, you're going to lose. I'm not saying that's happened, but I feel like Harry, I love Harry. He's been a fantastic servant for the club. But on the big games and the big days, he hasn't turned up. And it's very unusual, Think about all the games he's turned up. And then we have all these finals and semis. And then, strangely, he doesn't turn up. I'm not blaming him solely. But, he's part and parcel of the team. And you could go through our history for that. But hopefully this is the year. Because, as Ange says, he always wins something in year 2. I'm just trying to pick which one I want. I think I'll go for the Europa League. I think I quite like that one. Europa League, go to the Champions League. Don't worry whether 4th or 5th. Okay, so I'll take that for this season. We're going to win the Europa League. Should be a doddle, right?
I think the group stage would be a dodger, or the league phase. I think after that is where it becomes a little bit tricky, especially if we're in around top 4 in the league. I wonder, will the club give Postecoglou a decision to make? You go for one or the other. We've seen it happen in years gone by. In retrospect, I think you should go for both, because ideally both can fucking qualify you for Champions League football. To be brutally honest with you, but Jack, off the back of Ledley King's quotes, look, we all know in years gone by, maybe squad depth, maybe a part to do with it, and lack of maybe buying top-class players. But I do agree with the comment that we've always had players on their day that can turn up and beat anybody. And I think that was, signified in the Pochettino era, Harry Redknapp on the day. But when we sort of got close, we could never really get over the line. Does the mentality weigh on the players regardless of the era at Tottenham and Hotspur? And I think it plays a massive part. So how do we break that cycle?
I think mentality does play a part, but the fact that, yes, I do believe that Spurs, majority of the time that I've been a Spurs fan, we have had to a degree a squad that, yeah, maybe if they play well enough on their day, can technically beat anybody. But it is about the word consistency, and it is also about, being able to replicate that type of performance on a regular basis throughout the season. And Spurs just have never been that sort of team to be able to replicate really strong performances throughout an entire campaign. They go through really big dips, they go through really bad spells. And I think the reason behind that is because, for the most part, we've either not had a good enough defense, we've not had good enough leaders, we don't have technically enough world-class players maybe in the same team at the same time. And I think it's a combination of those three things. I think for the majority of the time I've been a Spurs fan, especially during the Eric Dyer, Davies, Davinson Sanchez era, we had an awful defense that I don't think was ever capable of ever really winning any trophies during that period. And also during maybe the Gareth Bale kind of period, I felt like we were missing another world-class player to stick with him in that team in order for us to really push for things and push for trophies. Then you look towards, again, the Sonny and Kane era. It felt like they were maybe missing just that extra world-class player, that other really top elite player to help them out in that forward line. There wasn't really anybody else that really was producing the goods that in the way that they were. Lucas Moura tried, Steven Bergwijn tried. We, of course, had Dele Alli for a period there, but it didn't last as long as we would have wanted or as long as we would have liked. Christian Eriksen as well. Felt like we just didn't have somebody maybe long enough to really help, contribute in the way that we needed in that forward line with Son and Kane. And I didn't think we really had a strong enough defense during that period. And then the last thing I would mention is, for probably the entire time that I've been a Spurs fan, I don't think we've really necessarily had any true kind of obvious leaders that can get you over the line in games, that can, kind of bring a squad together, bring that kind of siege-like mentality, make sure that everybody's on the same page, make sure that everybody gets along and everybody's pushing as hard as each other for the same goal. I don't think Lloris was ever a good enough captain. I don't think Kane was really ever a good enough captain. I don't think really anybody that's technically been a captain in my lifetime as a Spurs fan has ever really technically been good enough to probably bring together a squad of players that can really push for something. Because sometimes you do get those underdogs. You do get those teams that maybe win a trophy despite everyone's original expectations. But lots of times I think those teams usually have someone in that team that is a leader, that does kind of bring people together, that does help people play better than they actually are in terms of quality on paper. And I just don't think we've ever had that leader. I don't think we've ever had a solid enough defense. I don't think we've ever had enough world-class players in the same team at the same time. And so I would disagree kind of with Ledley King, to be honest. Like, yes, for majority of the time we've been Spurs fans. I think, yes, we've had a good enough team that can technically beat anybody, but it was never a team that was good enough to beat anybody on a regular basis, on a regular occasion, in a consistent like manner. And that's what's probably required in order to really be confident of winning trophies.
No, 100%, and I certainly agree with your part in terms of the leadership. I'm a firm believer if you've got great leaders, and especially someone that's very talkative on the football pitch, pulls people into position, makes himself very vocal and heard. I'm a firm believer that sort of leadership is what actually gets you over the line in them sort of finals and stuff like that. But many people, like Dan Gay says here, Sam, believe that we lack the belief to get over the line, and that comes from within the club. But Postecoglou is very confident he's going to win a trophy this season. So how is he going to change it where others haven't?
Yeah, look, I mean, how many managers have we had where they've told us that, it's the history of the Tottenham, top four's our ambition. We just, as a club, we've lacked general ambition. I mean, even look at the fans. I saw someone on Twitter saying it earlier. Palace are on absolutely shocking form. They've not won a game yet, and yet, probably myself included, there are doubts in there that we'll go out and beat Crystal Palace, or the Palace will come to us and get a result. It's something that's been ingrained into us like over years. I mean, my granddad, my dad, that everyone in my family knows that as much as you don't want to use the word, there is something Spursy about us. And Andrew's come in, and people rightly or wrongly gave him stick about his comments about the derby, saying he wants to win and he can't believe that people would want us to not win. And as much as I was semi-annoyed about those comments, you have to kind of read between the lines, right? He's saying, I want to win no matter who we're playing, right? And I think the argument against that was that, well, why didn't we win any of the other games before that? So we didn't have to then go and try and get a result against Man City that would have probably ended up with no points anyway. Not getting Champions League anyway, because Villa had just coasted to Champions League in the end. But the comments at the start of last season, like why can't we let the Spurs fans dream that Andrew was making? These are all positive signs, and players like Kulusevski, as much as maybe he's not a leader yet, the way that he speaks, the way that he conducts himself, just surely has to rub off on some of these players. He's taken these performances, he might not be adding the goals and assists yet, but the way that he's conducting himself, I don't think anyone can really argue has been showing potential future captaincy material. Whether he stays with us for that long or whether we bring in someone else that does become captain, you don't know. But I think going back to King's comments, I do agree with him. I think we have always had, at least from as long as I've been watching, although there were periods in my Spurs career when I was watching the likes of like Ryan Nielsen and people like that lining up like in the team. No disrespect to anyone who wears the badge. But we have always lacked a decent squad. And I think that's it. How many shows have you guys done where, we've come on after a defeat to some League One team in the Carabao Cup or whatever, and you're just saying, for fuck's sake, it's the same players every single time. I don't want to dig him out because he's my boy, but you throw in the likes of your Ben Davies, you throw in the likes of all these players that were in the supposed B team, and we weren't getting the results. And let's be honest, if we had the similar sort of B team that we have now, and Andrew's playing them in the cups, we'd probably already have dropped points in the Europa League and dropped points, maybe even gone out to Coventry in the Carabao, because we were shit in that game, and there wouldn't have been. It would have been too late for us to get back into the game. I know it's all speculation, but I think the reason that we've never, in my lifetime, not won anything is because we've never put in the sufficient backing to the rest of the club. And, it falls back to, you made your points about Harry Kane not scoring in finals and things like that. And yes, that is true. But I'm trying to think, like, I can't remember anyone scoring in a final. It's like we lose these games like 1-0, 2-0, which is obviously devastating as a fan. And I've been to a handful of these finals and semi-finals, so I've been there firsthand to experience it. And I do feel bad for Kane, because he also gets kind of painted with this brush of, like, he never turns up in big games. But one player can't win it all unless you're like a Messi type character or someone like that. But Kane isn't that. He as a striker with not serious pace, and although he was a solid dribbler, not really Ronaldinho level skills or anything. He's not going to just pick the game by the scruff of the neck. He might take a chance with very low XG, similar to Sonny. But I do think it's a bit harsh to as I say, paint him with this brush of not being a big game player, when we had no big game players in the team, and big game players feed off the others. And I do agree. I don't know if Kane would have made a great captain for us, as much as I would have loved him to stay and see him get the captaincy. I think it would have been a similar kind of argument that people are making about Sonny, not vocal enough. Yeah, he leads by example, but doesn't bollock players when they need to or whatever. I don't know if you saw that, the All or Nothing, where he's like, fucking goals, fucking this, fucking, we got 3 points. That's not the kind of stuff that gets players riled up, and I don't know many players in the team that could do, again, other than the likes of your maybe Romero's and your Kulusevskis at the moment. So we've had great players, but they've been lightly littered around mediocrity. I think that's the be all and end all.
100%. But I also think, when players come to Tottenham Hotspur, I think they see it as a stepping stone. I think if they see they can, have a good run with Tottenham, they see it as a stepping stone to make it to the clubs where there is pressure for them to deliver titles. And if you're not delivering titles, you're out the door. At Tottenham Hotspur, we set the tone that it's okay for mediocrity at Tottenham. You don't have to win trophies, because we give bang average players who have given bang average service long-term deals and high contracts, and rewarding the lack of service, to be brutally honest, in years gone by. And I think that has to change at Tottenham Hotspur. I think, if a player's come here and, over the course of the first 3 years of his contract, if it's not working out, you have to be ruthless enough to kick him out. You have to set that tone within the football club. We're not accepting mediocrity anymore. We're not rolling you out in these games to be turned over like that anymore. If you're not performing, you're out the door. And I think there has to be that sort of culture. When you look at the likes of Man United in years gone by under Sir Alex Ferguson, they were absolutely ruthless. When you look at Jose Mourinho at Chelsea, he was absolutely ruthless. If you're not doing it, you're out of the team. It's that simple. You look at Man City, they're ruthless. They picked up Calvin Phillips, went in, didn't do it, he's out again. And I think Tottenham really need to sort of adopt that policy going forward, to really set that standard in and around the club, first of all. And then I think you might start seeing that sort of translate on the pitch. Because when you hear some of Tottenham's high-profile players leave this football club and say there's no pressure to really deliver at Tottenham Hotspur, when you're hearing some of the greatest managers in the game walking away from Tottenham Hotspur saying the exact same thing, You know, people are trying to tell us what's going on, and the board now have to start, doing that from within. You can't keep rewarding mediocrity at this club, and hopefully, now that we've got a lot of them players out of the club, we've brought a lot of sort of fresh faces in. Hopefully, that will be the standard set going forward now. So let's wait and see. But Rooty too, I did see that. What I would do, to be honest with you, is I'd go rock up and pay it in pennies. To be brutally honest, I think it's absolutely disgusting.
8 installments.
Yeah, the fact that we're getting punished for sticking up for ourselves on the football pitch, for Van de Ven not allowing himself to be beat up, Sarr not allowing himself to be beat up. I mean, I think it's absolutely disgusting. Like I said yesterday on the fan show, I think it's more or less promoting bullying, that they just want us to sort of stand there and accept it, Yeah, how they like, this is my problem with it. How's there no sort of real life sort of just sort of what's the right word? Fucking common knowledge applied to the situation in terms of, Kudos stamped on Van de Ven about 4 or 5 times, used him as a fucking trampoline. Then as soon as Van de Ven stand up, he punched him in the face, and then done the exact same to Papa Sarr. At what point do you not expect us to stand up for ourselves? I think every kid is taught, don't be a bully, but don't be bullied. Stand up for yourself. There comes a point. So I think there just needs to be common sense applied to the situation and actually punish Kudos for starting it all. He clearly lost his head. I think it's disgusting, Rooty, to be brutally honest with you, my man. So pay in 1 pences. That's what I would do on that. Guys,
go on. I'm just going to say, it's laughable. We're talking here about not having the fight. I thought we had the fight. I thought Brendan Johnson, I actually posted the video just before I came on here. You've even got Brendan Johnson standing up to Jared Bowen. Who'd have thought we'd see that? But, we're talking about leaders and, standing up for yourself. I didn't see that on Saturday when I saw James Maddison taken off. And he did not celebrate. He's part of the leaders group. And he did not sit on that bench and celebrate those goals. I think it's a disgrace, an absolute disgrace. Doesn't matter. No one is bigger than the club, including you, James Maddison. Yes, you had a great first half, but you were like knife through butter. You were causing all the problems that were coming right through the middle of the park. Yes, you were creating chances, but football's about both ends of the pitch. And when you're taking off for the good of the team, accept it. Do not sit there with a face as long as a kite, and do not, when we score a goal and take the lead, look like something's just happened. You should be out there celebrating. It's about the team, right? And you are one of the leaders, supposedly.
Well, Johnny, that transitions me actually nicely on to the next sort of topic here, is with James Maddison. Our question is Postecoglou having James Maddison right now? Does he fancy James Maddison, and not in the attractive sort of way, but in terms of in terms of his lineup? Because he took him off a lot last season. If you go back to a lot of games, he was substituted off towards the end of games. Towards the end of last season, he was out of the lineup completely, making cameos off the bench, and he was also sacrificed at halftime against West Ham. So it begs the question: does James Maddison suit this midfield tree the way Postecoglou wants it to be? Because when you look at someone like Kulusevski, he's really good going forward, but he also mucks in defensively and he turns over a lot of ball. You look at the first 20 minutes of the West Ham game, I think he turned it over 3-4 times. You look at James Maddison against Brighton, for instance, second half completely went out the game when the game's going the other way. And you also look at the lazy challenge, not only him, but Werner, Udogie, all through on the Brighton player for the third goal that led to that goal. Is Postecoglou maybe having concerns around James Maddison actually fully fitting the system? Is he maybe not having his attitude? What's your thoughts on the situation right now between the two?
For me, I worried about him coming to the club. Don't ask me why. There was a few reservations I had, but he played well for 9 games for Tottenham. Got injured, Chelsea game. Might have been 10. Was it 10? Chelsea game was the 10th. And since then, he's not performed. Okay? You can't be carried. He scored 4 goals all season. He's meant to be the man. I didn't see him demanding the ball, and he rightly was taken off a lot last season. This season, he didn't start off great, but he's progressed. He has been better this season. But like I said, when you put Kulu alongside James Maddison in the middle of the park, it shows up. He showed up. He showed up. I don't want to see him going down every time he's challenged, holding his ankles, right? I don't want to see it anymore. Stand up, be a man, right? It's football. You know, if you're challenged, fair enough, right? But he's doing this the whole time. He's not tracking back. He's not working hard enough. And I'd be honest with you, at half time, I was saying that Maddison I thought was poor. Now, that might sound like a contradiction when the guy's created 6 chances and got an assist. But as I said, football is about both aspects of the game. And he was sorely lacking. And West Ham were constantly cutting through the middle. And that was a problem. And not only that, we had 12 corners in that first half, the most by any club, any team in the Premier League this season. And every single one of them was wasted. It never looked like we were going to do anything with any of them. He's a creative midfielder. Is he scoring goals? When he puts the ball down for a free kick, do you ever think he's going to score a goal? I don't. When he's putting the ball down I don't see this player that's been put on a pedestal, right? I don't have a problem with dropping him and make him look within himself. Look, I'm James Maddison, but hey, I need to start performing on this pitch, right? And if it means bringing in Bergvall or bringing in Papa Sarr and Basuma to play alongside Kulu, I don't care. No one should be bigger than the club. And James Maddison right now has to perform on a consistent basis. And I feel right now he's not doing that, just like Timo. So, I'm not in a hate campaign against James Maddison, but, when you're not doing it and we've got competition for places, take him out. And that's what Ange did. But I've got to tell you where we were, though, we thought he was injured and that's why he was taken out. It was hard for me to believe it, having sat through the Brighton game and the pain of that and the drive home, that he'd actually made the decision. But big up to Ange for doing that, because it was so the right decision. And how good was Papa Sarr when he came on to take up Maddison's role. And it was a game changer.
No, Papa Sarr was absolutely brilliant when he came off the bench, especially that great pass for Son. And he has that in his locker. I'd just like to see him bring more of that to his game, to really sort of stand out and really fight for one of them first 3 spots. But when it comes to James Maddison, look, 2 things you've mentioned there, Johnny, I have highlighted with James Maddison. And look, I want to start by saying I was surprised he was taken off. I don't think he was taken off because he put in a bad performance against West Ham, but I understand the tactical substitution behind it. And when you look at the other 2 players on the pitch, they're more willing to work back than James Maddison. And I think James Maddison's struggle is that he's come from Leicester to Tottenham Hotspur, and it's a step up in terms of club size, everything else. And at Leicester, he was the main man. At Tottenham, he's not the main man, and I think maybe he's struggling. I've said this plenty of times. I think the only one that has the right, and you'd probably give the right, to maybe not track back as much out of possession is Son, given his age, because you want to conserve his energy every time he gets the football, which means James Maddison has to muck in. And I don't think that's been asked of him at other clubs, and I think it's something that he's struggling to adapt to. But I think ultimately, if he really wants to stick around and be in the edge midfield, I think it is something that he has to bring to his game. And the other thing, and I've mentioned this, and look, I know some people thought it was harsh and argued with me about it, but I'm sick of the amount of times I see that guy rolling around. It's nearly every challenge he gets. Sometimes, you've got to realize it's going to keep happening to you and they're going to keep hitting you hard if that's your reaction. Sometimes you just got to get up, pretend it doesn't hurt, even though it fucking does, and then they'll think twice about doing it the next time. A bit of reverse psychology on the situation. But Jack, David Clark says here, and I think it's a fair comment to a degree, he says you blame Maddison. No, I'm not. Not you, Jack. Maybe he's saying all of us, but he says for being poor out of possession. But yet players like Son, Werner, Johnson, Poro, and Adoji aren't great out of possession. Yet Maddison is the scapegoat.
Game by game, David. Game by game, right? Listen, we all know that Adogi's not been at it. We all know that Johnson and the players. I got to tell you, on Saturday, and I'm going to put it out, Johnson might not have scored, but he was unbelievable, tracking back to cover for Pedro Porro on the weekend. And this is about James Maddison on Saturday. And on Saturday, he wasn't tracking back and he was going down like he'd been touched by a feather every 2 seconds. And Ange had enough. I mean, you saw in that clip, get your kit on, you're coming on. He was like he was angry.
I just think this is.
But
Sorry. Yeah, go ahead, Dave.
No, okay. I was going to say 100% in terms of James Maddison. But look, I do take the argument, Jack. Johnson, he did on the third goal or on the West Ham goal, he was caught ball watching. He could have tracked back a lot more. Werner, you know, I've pointed it out at times that maybe he's not the hardest work in getting back to help Doji. Son at times as well. I think it is a fair comment. Is Maddison being scapegoated, Jack?
I think at times he can be, but in this particular scenario, I just don't even know whether it's really scapegoating or really anything much of anything. I think we're just trying to determine why Ange Postecoglou made the decision to take him out. And majority of us are coming to the conclusion that it probably had to do something with maybe the defensive work rate or something defensively that Ange must have noticed that he felt like Maddison wasn't doing, because I agree with the majority of the panel here. I felt like Maddison was creating chances. I think he's actually had a pretty good season thus far. I think he showed lots of signs of improvement from how he ended off last season. It's just in this particular game, I'm just not too sure whether, you know, Ange must have saw something or not. Like, I'm really, Dave, like kind of still in the woods about it. Like, I'm not really too clear as to what Ange must have saw that we weren't seeing, because I felt like Maddison did have a pretty good first half. I didn't think he hurt us that much defensively on the game, but clearly Ange did think that, or he must have saw something that he didn't like.
Could it be coming down to maybe Ange just told him to get back and help Doji, and maybe he neglected that?
Yeah, something very specific and something very particular.
And obviously we're not going to know. He's not going to tell us what job he gave him, right?
Exactly. And that's where I think it's just opinions really in this case. I don't think it's really scapegoating or anything. I think it's just us trying to come up with an opinion to figure out maybe what Ange must have saw or what Ange must have not liked. And I think it might have had something to do with the defensive end of things, because in the past, James Maddison has been guilty of maybe not working as hard as others out of possession. He is guilty of not being the most determined player, you know, trying to win the ball back. I think he has been a lot better at that this season. I think there have been some moments where really high up the pitch, he's won the ball back for us, has started off some good counterattacks and his work rate, but maybe it's just in this particular game, just felt like he was cutting it, or didn't feel like he was doing exactly what Ange had wanted, and he brought in Sarr to do that. And maybe it also had to do with Maddison had an opportunity to create goals, to score a goal or something in that first half. He didn't. Ange felt like, you know what, I'm only 1-1 here. It's a game that's level. There's 45 minutes left. I want to make sure and guarantee that we are going to get this win. And he felt like Pop Matasar was a better candidate to do so. But for me, Dave, I don't think anybody is really scapegoating Maddison or anything, because especially on this channel, you and I have been pretty complimentary, at least I have, for him this season. I think he's played pretty well so far. And then there have been games where I don't think I mentioned much to do about his work rate. Usually he does tire out around the 60th, 70th minute. But for the most part, I think we've been pretty complimentary of him this season. So I don't think it does have much to do with scapegoating.
No, I think, look, in terms of going forward, I think, you know, and I look, that's what we bought him for out there. Yeah, I think he's been pretty good this season. Now, don't get me wrong. I think there's improvements he could make, like the set pieces. That's one thing I was looking forward to him when he came in, is that he could maybe help solve a problem there. But he hasn't. But look, I do think, you know, you also have to recognize or ask the question, why was he the one taking off? Why did Kulu stay on ahead of him? You know, when, you know, you have to ask that question. You can't be naive to that. You know, you have to, if you ask the question, you'll find the answer and you'll get the reasons why. And look, I do think it is because he's not willing to work hard enough tracking back. But Sam, there's a lot of split comments here in the comment section. Some saying he's a scapegoat. Some saying, look, what the panel is saying is correct. But does it come down to maybe what David Harris and then Oderest Fasir has to say here? David Harris says, big up Team Harris checking in. Good to see you, sir. Hopefully you're keeping well. Says, no issues with Matters. He's been good this season. He's not world class. We expect too much as a fan base, which I think, you know, my personal opinion, I probably do maybe expect too much from him. Is he as good as maybe what I think he is, or what he can be? And Adair Fasir says Maddison is his ceiling. There's a reason why another top 4 team has looked at him. He's a luxury player, like someone else said. So what's your thoughts? Because you have come in here very strongly and said, I agree with David Clark. I'll talk about scapegoat when it's my turn. So now's your turn.
Yeah, look, I'm not saying that you guys have been scapegoating him, but we have a scapegoat culture in this fan base. And I've said it before about many other players. one of them being, one that some of us on the panel did like, which is Højbjerg. And a lot of the fans won't be happy about me saying that, but I don't really give a rat's, as they say. Maddison last season, and we were critical of him last season, myself included. When he came back from injury, didn't pick up any form. And, as Johnny said, he had 4 goals. He was supposed to be the man that came in. Am I concerned with his output? Yeah, 100%. And I don't think you need to be, really controversial to say that. And I agree. His corners, again in the West Ham game, wanted me to go and headbutt my TV. Genuinely, I was watching this. How can you have 12 corners in the first half and not put one decent ball in? And it was just every single one basically went to the exact same place, over everyone, back stick. It was like the reverse of Christian Eriksen. Where I think I disagree with the panel is who else was he going to take off in that situation? If he felt like he needed a change, who else was he going to take off? He wasn't going to take off Son. He wasn't going to take off Solanke. He wasn't going to take off Johnson. So those 3 are out of the equation. He wasn't going to take off his holding midfielder if he wanted to get control of the midfield. And by all accounts, Kulusevski's been our best player this season and was playing very well as well. He's got
right, but does that not maybe sort of say everything, though? The fact that Kulusevski hasn't played in that number 10 role as long as Maddison has, throughout his career, but yet he's already grasping both sides of the game and Maddison hasn't.
The argument, Dave, I think, is this is not a number 10 role. And this is not this goes back to your point about whether Maddison fits the system. Which I think is another point entirely, and I agree with it.
Okay,
but I think for Leicester, he worked well in that pocket of space, right, between the defense and the midfield, creating havoc. Where if he got any time on the ball, he had Jamie Vardy making a lung-busting run with his Red Bull legs or whatever. He's got the Red Bull pumping through his veins, and he was just ready to get on the end of any ball and had that bite in him to make it work. And I'm not saying that our players don't have that bite in them, but it was a very different role. Whereas now, when you see Maddison on the ball, I don't know if it's an Ange thing, if it's just the game state, or if it's something Maddison did at Leicester and I just didn't really notice it that much. He picks up the ball so deep.
Yeah.
And, we gave him the grace of last season, saying the inverted fullbacks were coming into his space, and it was kind of like the midfield was congested. And I was on a panel show. I was on Spurs Kings a few weeks ago. And I think someone said it. I don't have I can't give the credit for it, but we congest the midfield ourselves, or we were congesting the midfield ourselves before this tweak of the last sort of 4 or 5 games, where we've actually had the fullback staying a bit wider. But Maddison is still dropping deep, and I've kind of been confused why you're seeing him drop deeper than Bentancur in a lot of games. I was thinking that before we started talking about it. I'm wondering why I'm seeing Bentancur going further ahead than Maddison, when Bentancur also has great ability on the ball, and I don't really understand why he's not going forward. I think the scapegoat stuff kind of comes in it, where it's like, I've said it before, we play a system that basically relies on the players to be perfect in every moment of the game. And that's why you see these little lapses in judgment from players like Romero, Porro, Destiny, all these players. They make one slight mistake and our system gets exposed. And
but doesn't most systems rely on players being perfect throughout the game? Because you could play a 5-man cross back like we did on the Conte. One player switches off, like we say many times.
Correct.
Still costs us games of football.
Yeah, 100%. I'm not saying this to say, oh, the system is shit and all this and all that. I'm just saying my point is more, okay, Maddison missed his press against Joe Ellington in the Newcastle game, right? He plays one ball over the top and all of a sudden they score after we've absolutely battered them black and blue, right? I don't think that he's necessarily. I think his form has definitely picked up since the start of the season. Personally, since the end of last season,
definitely improved.
Yeah.
Are the contributions coming? Not quite, but then I also think that, and as much as I'm loving Solanke at the moment, he's not been the striker that I thought he was going to be, for better or for worse. To be honest, he's really impressed me with his doggedness and his link-up play. But I was kind of thinking we were signing a box striker, someone who's getting in between the posts and could be picked out from a player like Maddison, as I was saying about Vardy, with these balls over the top. So I've been a little bit underwhelmed with Solanke in that regard, but overall very impressed with his general play. And I think that this sort of stuff will come. They came through the England youth setup together, right? So they've obviously got some sort of chemistry. I just think that it all kind of boils down with Maddison to the fact that he's not a number 8, in my opinion. He's that number 10 kind of shadow striker playmaker that is looking to pick up the ball in the pocket and rip a shot from 20 odd yards or take a man on in the defense. You see him; he's very quick on the ball with his feet, right? I think a lot of people were quite impressed with Maddison when he came in, thinking how quickly he moved the ball and shifted his body to juke past players. So I don't buy into the narrative of he's not good enough or he's reached his ceiling. I just think that maybe he's not the right kind of player for the system that we want to play.
Too slow now. Sorry, I don't want to interrupt there, Sam, but do you not think? I mean, you watch Bergvall. Bergvall has already scanned the area. He's got his peripheral vision. The ball's coming to him. He's released that ball before it's come to him. Maddison needs 2, 3 touches, 4 touches. He needs too many touches. He's slowing the game down often. And, I see that happening. We need to progress the ball quickly. And listen, if anyone should be accused of making Maddison a scapegoat, it should not be the panel here. It should be Ange Postecoglou, because he's the guy that took him off. Let's message Ange and see what he's got to say about it. Because we're getting the blame here. Because at the end of the day, it was Ange. Sorry to interrupt this, Sam, but I just think that he used to move the ball quickly when he was at Leicester. But since that injury, I don't see that quick movement of feet. I see him slowing games down quite often.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And I also wanted to I haven't seen any videos / didn't notice it during the game of him not celebrating the goals. So I can't comment on that personally. But what I can say is, would you not be more concerned of a player of Maddison's supposed quality coming off the pitch, being really all smiley and happy to make way for someone else to take his place, right? I don't have a problem with.
No, not that. But I 100%. You would expect him to be angry, but I don't expect him when the goals go in, right, and the team win. You should be celebrating. You're not bigger than the team, and that goes for every single player in that pitch, right? That's all. That's all I'm saying. He's meant to be a leader. And talking about leaders, we were just quickly going back to that. What do you do if someone say Romero's the leader on the pitch on the day, and Romero's having the stinker, right? We can't rely on Romero to G up Romero. So then it's up to other players on that pitch to step up. Whether it be Archie Gray, an 18-year-old, or whether it's Vicario or whoever. It's up to others to step into the void and take on that role. Traditionally, it was one guy who was the captain. In modern day football, I think it's the responsibility of the team, of individuals who make up the team, to step into the void and step up and support each other and encourage each other when the shit hits the fan.
Yeah.
Go on.
No, I completely agree. But look, this is what I find strange, because Postecoglou initially put him in that leadership group, but then he sacrificed him over the course of the last season and the start of this season an awful lot of times. And I do think it comes down to at other clubs, Maddison has been afforded that luxury. Just wait till the ball comes to you, play in that number 10 role. You've got striker and 2 wingers to feed. At Tottenham, it's a little bit different. And I think he's struggling to adjust to maybe what's being asked of him, because in this midfield role, he has to do both sides of the game. He has to bring that other side game. If Kulusevski has it, he has to bring it. And unfortunately, I don't think he's come in and hit the ground running at Tottenham Hotspur. That actually affords him that, where you have to look at it and go, no, Postecoglou has to play 1 number 10, play 2 behind him, and afford him that luxury. So I think until he becomes that player, I think he has to earn that right at Tottenham Hotspur. And ultimately, I think that's where the conversation comes in, and it comes down to Maddison. Are you willing to bring that other part to your game, or are you going to cry and look to get out of the football club and go somewhere that's going to offer you that luxury sort of status within their system? But look, we'll take a few comments from the chat, and then
Dave, can I just ask one question as well? Sorry. Do you think that it was a mistake to make Madders part of the leadership group straight away? Do you think it's brought a level of complacency? Because I do personally. Like, I know I've gone hard kind of the other way, but I'm also here to bring balance, right? But I do think that we're seeing a lot of complaint. You said, he came into the team not as the big dog he was at Leicester, but I actually kind of disagree with that, because I think that making him the one of these captains and vice captains, and putting a lot of this power kind of on his shoulders, has actually worked kind of negatively. And now I think maybe they brought in Vicario, not necessarily because of Maddison, but because the leadership group hasn't quite worked the way that we hoped it would. And, now it's kind of a case of you can't really take it away from him, because then where do you go from there, right?
Well, I think you can. I think there's been plenty of examples where managers have took stuff off players, and it's up to them to earn the right back to get it. Look, I think it was a mistake putting him in the leadership group when he first came in here. I understand why he done it. When you look at what we've had left of previous regimes, it's only really been Son. The rest is gone. So he has to form leaders out of these new group. And look, don't get me wrong, he came to Tottenham with a reputation as that big dog reputation. But has he lived up to it or continued that at Tottenham Hotspur? No, he hasn't. And therefore, he hasn't earned the right or the luxury to, for us to change the system to accommodate him, but also to be in that leadership group. And I do think there will come a point at Tottenham Hotspur where Postecoglou might have to relook at that leadership group and change it as it goes on. You're already starting to see that. He's added Vicario to that leadership group, for example. So I think, as time goes on, Postecoglou will learn lessons about the player. And I think, look, with James Maddison, I think it's on him right now. He's in danger of being out of the leadership group at Tottenham. He's, to a large degree, sometimes his position is under threat, and he's lost his place in the England squad. And it's not because everybody else around him is wrong. It's because it's something that he's doing wrong, and he needs to improve that, and he needs to realise he's at Tottenham Hotspur now. The only player at this football club has that luxury is Son. Nobody else. You have to earn that, and I think he's struggling with that. I did say when we first signed Maddison, one of my concerns around him was his attitude. That's why I said very clearly at the start when we were linked with him or Pedro Goncalves, I said I'd rather Pedro Goncalves, because I don't think he has that ego about him. I think James Maddison does, and I think, is he humble enough to maybe put that ego aside and willing to knuckle down and work hard? I'm not quite so sure. It's now at his door. It's up to him. Let's see how he responds personally going forward. But we'll take a few comments here from the chat, and then I've got one last question, just maybe what you were expecting tomorrow. We'll take some questions from the members, and then we'll end it off here, guys. But we got Eugene S. Appreciates. He says, just like Morgan Freeman is a voice of God in movies, Johnny is a voice in my head when I think about Spurs. Look, reason why we have Johnny on here.
I hope it's a good
look,
thing.
It's a great thing. Look, the reason why we have you on, and the reason why I was so keen to get you involved in some of the stuff we do over here, is because I think you have great knowledge on Tottenham. I think you've got great football opinions, and I really enjoy having conversations with you. So I'm glad other people feel the same way. Big up, Eugene. Daniel Harris says, could Spur also be an Ange problem? Who has Ange improved? Oh, I think that's harsh personally. I think there is players that he has improved. We've got Dangley's support service. Think it's not scapegoat. It's us seeing players' attitude and drop, and it's poor. David Clark says, can the panel tell me what's the point of 2 inverted fullbacks if they never win the ball back in the opponent's half of the field? Do you think they are creators? It's laughable. Just quickly on that, I think what you see is when they come inside, they drag people away with them, which actually leaves Johnson one-on-one with the fullback and Son one-on-one with the fullback the other side. If they were playing on the overlap, you're dragging the winger with you and probably a centre midfielder out there as well, which is actually bringing players towards 2 of your most dangerous players on the football pitch. Well, it's certainly in Son's case, one of the most dangerous players on the football pitch. By playing a Doji inverted, he keeps Son out there one-on-one, so every time he gets that football, he's in a position to be able to destroy his fullback. Daniel Harris says, could Manners have come to Spurs thinking he was going to link up with Kane and got his bubble burst? I think that's definitely I think he was probably lied to. Don't get me wrong. I think the club used Harry Kane, maybe to get some of the transfers in and then says, look, he's gone, and then maybe shocked a few people. Deeps Terrifics is absolutely right about the scapegoat culture at Tottenham. There always has to be at least one at any given point. Look, I don't think it's scapegoating. I think if a player ain't pulling his weight, I think Spurs fans are more than entitled to criticise them. They work hard all week to be able to go and support this football club. They give up a third of their wage to make it. You've got people that travel 4 or 5 hours down the country to be able to get to games. I think if a player's not pulling the weight, fans are more than entitled to call it out. Some call it scapegoat, but I call it if a player's not pulling the weight on the jersey that I adore and the badge that I love, it's not good enough. I'll be here before them and I'll be here after them. So I'll hold a certain standard of what I expect from them. If that's scapegoating, I do not apologise for it. And Ugly Fish says scapegoat is an important role in the Spurs squad. I think Werner was bought in for the reason. So if Maddison wants it, he should cancel the loan.
That's how we get Timo out. That's the way we get Timo out.
Timo was born to be a scapegoat, right?
Look, that guy, everyone just get ready for him to play tomorrow. Just quickly, I won't go to you, Jack, because, we've done the members preview and you'll be on the pre-match build-up tomorrow. Just quickly from Johnny and Sam before we get into members' question. Johnny, big European night tomorrow under lights. I know you and Sam are both going. What are you expecting to see when you rock up to that stadium tomorrow in terms of performance-wise? And what sort of lineup do you think we should go with tomorrow? We'll start with you, Johnny.
I think we've got to go with a strong lineup, but I would probably keep Porro in the team, Dragusin, Mickey van der Ven, Archie Gray playing at left back, unfortunately, unless he's going to play at the right back and play Destiny, but he needs a break. And then my midfield would be Bergvall, punish Maddison and make him play in the middle of the park with Bentancur. And then on the left side, I would be playing Mikey Moore through the middle. I would play Richarlison, but he's only got 30 minutes in him. So I might start Will Lancashire. I know that sounds a bit crazy. That's what I would do.
Over Richie.
I think Richie's only got 30 minutes in him. So I think he'll come on. I don't think he'll start. I think he'll come on unless something changes. He's been out a long time. There's fitness and there's match fitness. I'd like to see him brought in. I'd like to see Solanke score a proper goal. And as Sam said, press fantastic, work rate fantastic. We haven't seen any of the Solanke, the goal striker, the striker that we bought. We haven't seen that yet. And I'd have to play Johnson again on the on that side and see what happens. But AZ Alkmaar, I think they lost 4 in a row. They lost on the weekend 2-1 to PSV Eindhoven. I think they played 80 minutes with 10 men. People you've got to watch out for. I mean, you've got Troy Parrott, scored 4 goals in 1 game, but hasn't done much else since. Got the most touches in the box of any player in the division in the box, but it's not scoring. You got Mark van Bommel, the Barcelona AC Milan player. His son, Ruben van Bommel, is playing him. He's quite young, but he's 6'3" winger. He could be a bit of a trouble for us. And then you've got Jody Classy, who used to play for Southampton. I think he's getting on a bit now. He's not exactly a tall, imposing guy. He's about 33, 34 years of age. Quite small, good passer, but we should dominate them. But expect a technical team. All Dutch teams are technical. You know, they were undone at Athletic Bilbao, but they were unlucky. They didn't play badly at all. And as can be seen tonight, Efsberg, they beat Efsberg 3-2, who lost tonight, I think 4-3 to Galatasaray in a bit of a mental game. I expect them to give us trouble. Listen, they score lots of goals and haven't conceded loads, but I'm going to go for a 3-1 win for Spurs.
3-1, I really hope so. You know, it'll be a nice evening for us then, if that's the case. Also, Van Bommel, watch him tomorrow, Johnny. He's a good player. I think you like what you see from him. Yeah,
Ruben
yeah.
Van Bommel.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see how he does tomorrow. Maybe go on Spurs radar. But Sam, likewise, you're also going to be at the game tomorrow. What are you expecting, and what sort of lineup are you expecting? Similar to Johnny?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I'm expecting to freeze my bollocks off. So I might have to bring some tracksuit bottoms to change into after work. And yeah, I do think probably a similar team. I think that, yeah, I probably would start Porro because we haven't brought Spence, and we'll go into that every single time because why? And I think that Destiny has had a bit of a dodgy couple of games. Like he was solid in the West Ham game, but there were still moments where you're a bit like, I mean, I thought he was weak in the goal that they scored, and also the chance that they had just before they scored anyway. Obviously, the ball deflected luckily through the players, but you know that is what it is. So yeah, I would give Destiny the break, and I probably can see Gray playing left back in the game. And what a little bit of sizzle he had when he came on for his first touch, Gray, with that little shift of the ball past Bowen, and they just kind of gave up, like, oh, here's what it is now, I'm done. But yeah, I think realistically, I have a very strong feeling that we're going to see Timo Werner out on the left in this game. Whether he decides that he wants to play Johnson on the right or give Johnson the rest and give more the minutes, because he did give more the entire game against Ferencvaros. And then I can kind of also agree with Johnny. Like, I think that Lancashire will get the minutes, but then that kind of throws my whole starting lineup into jeopardy, because I was thinking before the game, like, it would be Werner, Richie, and Moore on the right. But now that you're like, yeah, because Richie, you're right. Game fitness, like match sharpness, is just a completely different thing to be fit.
Yeah.
And also, how many times since he joined us have we seen him come back for 4 or 5 games and then go out for another 2 months? So you need to start blooding Lancashire in. You know, you kept him around and not let him go out on a loan. So he does need to get minutes as well, you know. So I can see Richie coming off the bench. I would like to see Solanke get a bit of a rest because he's played a lot, obviously being the only real recognised striker for the start of the season. Also off the back of his own injury, so you just need something. Midfield. Did you say, Johnny, you think Maddison will start as a punishment?
Well, I would start him as a punishment, but I would definitely 100% be playing Bergvall. I would be playing Bergvall, Bentancur, and Maddison.
Yeah, I can see that being the midfield. Although I would feel a little bit like Saar would be a little bit hard done by that.
Well, Saar can play. Listen, Saar could be playing at Palace. You know.
Yeah.
He has scored 2 goals in 2 games, Papa Saar. Remember.
But then, wouldn't you think that Palace would be the kind of game, like we talk about whether Ange should be playing 2 basically number 10s against every team? Would Palace not be the game where you would expect him to play like Maddison and Kulu?
I would. I think Saar plays tomorrow for sure. He's been our best player in the last 2 Europa League games.
He's also top scorer in the Europa League, isn't it?
2 goals, and he got an assist against Man United as well. You know, he's in good form.
I think the only sort of question in the midfield is, does he go with Maddison after hauling him off at half-time, or does he go with Bergvall, you know, who the Europa League campaign hasn't gone his way so far. I think they're probably the two, you know, that's probably a call he needs to make tomorrow. But look, I think I see a lot of people sort of say, I get it, AZ Alkmaar is a step up in quality. But, you know, I think we're going too far. I see people saying respect them, you know, they could cause us problems. At the end of the day, we're fucking Tottenham Hotspur. We should beat them. We've got tougher games coming up against Hoffenheim, Rangers, Galatasaray, Roma. This should be 3 points for Tottenham in the bag. And if we play our style of football and everyone plays to their best ability, we should make light work of it. But guys, we're going to get into the listeners' questions, and then we will end off and let the boys go for go and rest up, get a lemsic, get into bed, and get a bedtime story read to them.
Yeah.
So Johnny, we'll start with you just quickly. This is from me.
Do you mind zooming in just a tad bit, Dave, if you know how?
I don't know how to zoom in.
Okay. You stay on screen, then I'll pull up the comments.
Okay. So I'll start with my question for Johnny. Johnny, where are you at with Ange Postecoglou now on the rebuild? You know, has your opinion changed slightly? Because I know, you know, the first few games, you know, you were concerned with where it was sort of heading, and rightly so, may I add.
I listen. One swallow doesn't make a summer. Do I want Ange to leave? No. Do I want Ange out? No. Do I hope he, you know, wins and takes us to another place? Yes. I just need to be convinced that certain things are changing. What I will say is our defence from set pieces is better. Okay? 100% is better. You know, we've only conceded 1 goal from a corner and a set piece all season. Fantastic. The other important thing that I've noticed in the change in this team is we are scoring goals from the counter-attack on the fast breaks, okay? Last season, we scored 3 goals in the entire season from fast breaks. This season, after 8 games, only 8 games, we've got 7 fast break goals, 3 for Sonny and 3 for Johnson. The best we've ever had is 9 under Poch, 2019. So we are definitely changing the way we are playing. And that's what I've asked for. And I can see these elements, you know, these are definitely things that have changed. You know, we did, as I said, 3 last season, 7 breakaway goals already. Says it all. Says it all.
No, 100%. So
I could give him a chance.
So anyone that was ridiculing saying, Johnny, you know, on previous shows that I was on with him before, on various shows, saying he doesn't back Ange, well, there you have it. He is behind Ange, and he's liking what he's seeing. So now you need to get him and give him praise, is what I would say. We've got this. It's more of a statement from Wizard.
I can go back to the bottom of the screen if you meant. Sorry.
No, what's the Wizard account? Who is it again, Jack?
Oh, it's Moondog. Yeah.
Moondog. Big up Moondog. He says, I have had a rethink of Ange and Spurs. I am loving the way we are exciting. I'm loving the way we're playing. We are exciting at the moment. I know we are crap at times, but this is all about getting the balance right. I am convinced we are going to win something this season, and I am giving Ange my 100% support. So big up Moondog getting behind. Again, geez, we're converting people over here. We'll be accused of being a cult again. Better be careful here. We've got this from Eddie. We'll throw this one to you, Jack. What would it take for Ange to be given world class? No, actually, we won't give this because you were on the fan show last night. You sort of had your. So we'll give this one down to Sam. Sam, what would it take for Ange to be given the world class manager title? I don't think he's there yet. He wins the league, then we'll see.
Yeah, first of all, big up Eddie. He's scared to play me on FIFA now after the little drubbing I gave him. But yeah, no, I think in a black and white sense, if he wins some trophies in England, it doesn't have to be the league, but it does have to be the FA Cup. I don't think winning the Carabao Cup makes you a world-class manager, but to win trophies in England, then he's won trophies everywhere he's gone across a multitude of countries, continents, and leagues. I don't think you could really argue that. I'm on board the Ange train. I've always been on it, but I've had I've had sort of one foot out the door, I think. Just to hold back a little bit from getting my heart broken like it has been many times as a Spurs fan. So I think he needs to show a little bit more adaptability and slightly less stubbornness. Not that I think that being stubborn in football is necessarily a bad thing. And I have been impressed with his decisions over the last sort of few games and also the slight tweaks we've seen with the fullbacks. So, I'm all behind him, and hopefully he wins us the league, and I can stick it to those Gooners.
There you are, Eddie. I nearly got you to saying it yesterday. Sam's very, very close as well. You can work on him while playing a bit of FIFA. Dropkick, your teacher, big up. Good to see you back around, my man. Hopefully you're keeping well. Jack, which teams are you most scared of in the Europa Conference League? For me, it's Atletico Bilbao, Eintracht Frankfurt, and Olympiacos. These are the most dangerous clubs, and they could easily knock us out.
Yeah, I would say Bilbao are probably the strongest. They kind of just have the history as well. They kind of have the history as well in European competition, as well as just Spanish teams in general do give me a bit of fear because they do know how to, kind of worm their way to a final when necessary. I am also slightly fearful of Roma just because they have gone through, I think, an early transition. They got rid of De Rossi. They have a new manager in. Maybe at some point later down the road, kind of later down the season, things start to click, things start to come together, and you could see an Italian team going pretty far into it. I also have a slight fear of Galatasaray. That's just because Galatasaray, they were the best team in the Super League last season. They actually did all right in the Champions League, in my opinion, last season. They gave some teams a pretty good go. They were in that group of death, I think, with Bayern Munich as well as with Manchester United, and they ended up finishing even ahead of Manchester United, if I remember correctly. And also, I think I would say Eintracht Frankfurt, to a degree, are also a team that maybe stronger than what we'd like to think. They have that guy Marmoush, who I think is an Egyptian international. He's kind of being one of the hot up-and-coming strikers at the moment in time. So I'd say that's a good list of teams I'd be fearful, and I'd probably add in Galatasaray just because they have Osimhen. They were the champions of the Super League last season, getting near like 100 points or something like that. They were practically perfect throughout the whole campaign, and they were pretty good in the Champions League last year, which would indicate they would be pretty good in Europa League this year. And their team hasn't changed very much. It's pretty much the same team that they had last year, only slightly improved, in my opinion. So I think Galatasaray is pretty strong.
No, 100%. 100%. Well, there you are, RST. And then I'll take the last one. He says, what trophy this season do you think we'll win? If we beat City, I think we can go win the Carabao Cup. To be honest with you, RST. But I would like the Europa League. I really would love to see some European success. Who's the player you're most disappointed so far? I think Romero. I really thought this was the season for him to really kick on. I think he's had a slow start to the season. I think he's used the first few games to get up to fitness, match speed, and stuff like that. And I think there's a lot more to come from him. So I've been disappointed with Romero so far. What's one player you think we should go after in January? I think a left back for sure, or another centre back. To be brutally honest with you, I'm not sure. I don't really have a name for you, but that's the area I'll be targeting, maybe just to shore it up, so that come the back end of the campaign, we have two players for every single position. Maybe backup goalkeeper could be one as well. Do you think Ange will finally get that win against the good big six sides? We beat a bad United team and a 9-man Liverpool team. Look, don't get me wrong. I think it is the next. I do think it is the next step that we have to take, RST. Don't get me wrong. We need to start beating them big six sides consistently if we want to be able to compete on all four fronts, or on all three fronts in the domestic competitions. But one thing I will say is, I think the way we play against the big six teams, we generate a lot more chances to be able to get the result than what we have done in previous years. And I do think eventually it's going to click. I do think it comes down to mentality and belief in them games. Your belief in your system, belief in the way you're playing, but also belief that you can go out there and beat them. And I think that's the biggest thing that Ange Postecoglou is trying to get over at this football club. I think if you go back, look at Conte, Jose Mourinho, I think you'll find a lot of their London records were piss poor as well, especially away from home. It's inherent at Tottenham. I think that it's bigger than just, a manager coming in and changing that overnight. I think it's a process. And then we'll take this from Al Ben. We'll let the boys plug their Twitter accounts, and we will bounce out and Champions League football. Al Ben says, don't understand. Ange could be fed up to pull Maddison, but watches over and over Werner's poor football qualities and still plays him. I think it is a fair point, but I think the big difference is with James Maddison, it's not like he's going to be dropped from that midfield. He's still going to be put in there come Palace. He's still going to play there come Manchester City. I don't think anyone's calling for Maddison to be dropped. I think people are just highlighting why he was taken off, and if he doesn't want to be in that situation again, then this is what he needs to bring to his game. With Werner, yes, he keeps persisting with Werner, but largely it's sort of cameos off the bench here and there, despite how useless he's been. But Ange Postecoglou won't give up on any player, and I think he will be consistent with that across the board with a lot of the players in this squad, to be fair. Alben, that's what I have to say. I don't know if anyone has a difference of opinion to it.
Johnny,
Jack,
Timo, is he trying to play him into full? I think, I understand that sort of mythology, but at the end of the day, it's getting worse and worse and worse. I posted a highlight reel of his West Ham bloopers, and someone said, you're being harsh. I said, if I was being harsh, I would have added the Coventry, the Brighton, and the Man United bloopers to the reel. I was trying to be kind. I think he needs to be dropped from the team, and I think he needs a mental psychiatrist, a mental monster, a sports psychiatrist to get inside that head, because he's the third fastest player in the league behind Mickey van der Ven and Anthony Elanga. And that is an asset. He just needs to remember that when you run, you have to take the ball with you, and you have to pass the ball.
I think it comes down to one of your comments I've seen on Twitter the other day, sort of made me chuckle. It's like, that whatever was there is left in well gone, left back there in Germany. I don't think no matter what you do, even if he does score one goal, I don't think you're ever going to see a Werner get to that consistent level ever. I think, sometimes there are players where they have a good, from 20 to 25, a good sort of career, and then for whatever reason it tails off and they can't reach the same heights. Jack, anything you want to say to Alben before we end off?
I mean, I actually think it's a fair point to make. I do feel like Ange doesn't have that many excuses to continue with Werner. It's not something that I'm willing to sack him over or anything like that, for sure.
Oh, well, that terminate in January if I could.
Well, what I mean to say is, with Ange Postecoglou, a lot of people have really held it over him, saying that they're willing to even sack him for, his persistence with Timo Werner. I was very close to going down that line of logic in the Coventry City game, because I was just ripping my hair out left and right with what was going on in front of my eyes. But I think since then I've calmed down a little bit, and I would say that it is very frustrating, and I don't think there are many excuses for Ange for why he continues with Werner. And I would say the fact that he does hold Maddison to a different standard is slightly hypocritical. It's not the end of the world, though, but I do think it is slightly hypocritical. I might agree with that point, because why does he continue to give Werner all the time and all the minutes and all the exposure that he can? And then with Maddison, he makes one little tiny mistake and he's willing to rip him off. Like, I do think that is a slight double standard.
What's Mikey Moore thinking? What's Mikey Moore thinking? I've got to watch this shit and can't get a game. Yeah, I hope he's playing.
I think he starts on the right tomorrow, though. I think he's earned it after his last performance. I think it's hard not to start him, to be brutally honest with you, Johnny. But I do agree with you. I think if you're Mikey Moore and Werner continues to get these minutes, like West Ham the other day, when you could have given them Mikey Moore, there's no better opportunity to introduce them to that sort of environment. I think if you're Mikey Moore, if it doesn't go your way soon, I think you might start looking at maybe a loan move, or dare I say, a permanent move somewhere else, which I hope isn't the case. But Johnny, while we're on you, my man, why do people need to get over to the Twitter and subscribe? Because I think you do fantastic sort of videos before the game, after the game, and general stuff during the week to engage everybody.
I try my best. Sometimes I wonder whether people have had enough of it. But people ask me to do the video before and after, so I try and do them. My little clip of Archie Gray leaving what's his name, Jared Bowen for dead, has done extremely well. It's I love Archie Gray. I mean, I really do think he's an absolute bomb. What a player he's going to be. But you can find me on Twitter on Johnny H3232 and on Instagram and TikTok on Let's Talk Tottenham 1882. And thanks very much, guys, for having me on. Hopefully see you next week.
Mm-hmm. No, look, thank you very much for giving up your time. I know you're not well at this moment in time, so everyone wish Johnny best recoveries in the chat, coming on when he's not well. Fair play to him. And guys, I genuinely mean it, puts out a lot on his socials in terms of pre-match, post-match, and during the week, make sure you get over there. Plenty of engagement going on there, so get over there and get on that. And he's very, very popular on the platform X, so make sure you do follow his account on that for sure. And then Sam, Ben, I know you didn't get your say on the super chat, we'll let you know. Says, seems like he's followed up, says, seems like Ange just don't like to admit his mistakes, so he's trying his hardest to play him into some form, which I think there's an element of that. Yep. But what manager doesn't try to play his players into form?
Yeah, I also who likes to admit their mistakes? Let's be honest.
Fair.
Just
Me,
quickly.
I don't mind.
Just quickly, I think that as much as I didn't want Werner to come on, I could understand why he did bring him on. I was annoyed that it was at the expense of more, and also we ended up basically doing F4 for the rest of the game, which I think also Ange would have been quite annoyed about, that we didn't go for the jugular for the last 15, 20 minutes of the game. But I could understand why at 4-1, I can't remember what time the red card was in the game, but against 10 men in the end, why you wouldn't think bringing on a player who's struggling would be why it wouldn't be a good thing, right? As much as you can say, we need to be investing in the likes of Moore rather than someone who's on loan, and ideally none of us want to stay, no matter how much you think he's a great guy or whatever. We all understand that his footballing ability just isn't there, unfortunately. But I could understand why he decided to make that change, although personally I wouldn't have. And then, you can find me on Twitter. I've been a little bit quieter recently. I've had a bit going on at work. I recently met a DJ at my brother's art gallery, which is called Shipton. It's in Hackney Wick, if anyone's ever down that way. And he was saying he was going to send me some music. So look, maybe I'll get some more music in the pipeline. I've had a few people.
You're going to become a drill artist.
Nah, I don't have it in me, Dave. I'm
Gotta
not.
Get them teeth sorted, Sam. Get them teeth there. Get those gems in that teeth. Get some drilling.
Yeah, exactly. A couple caps and a couple diamonds. No, that's not a bit of me. I'm more introspective, let's say.
R&B?
No, I wish I could sing like that. But I just catch me on Twitter, catch me on here from time to time. Hopefully, I'll be on a few other podcasts in the future. But for now, I'm just looking forward to the game tomorrow, and hopefully we can go marching on and win the Europa League and also the Carabao Cup and also the league and also the FA Cup.
Ange says nice it's one. In the stars. It's a given. Ange just said it. We have to believe it.
Also, if you do get over to Johnny's Twitter and see his videos, I don't know using like a steady cam or like a gyroscope. The videos are they're so perfect. I'm like, this guy's in the stands, like perfectly holding his phone, getting these videos of
years of practice, lad.
I've got a steady hand.
You'd be a good darts player, Johnny.
Yeah,
so you would if you got a steady hand.
I think there's more money in darts than this.
That's for sure. That's for sure, especially if you can do it like Luke Littler. But guys, that's it from us. I want to say a massive thank you to Johnny and Sam for giving up their time this evening, and also hopefully you enjoy yourself at the game tomorrow and cheer the boys on to victory. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone who's tuned in over the course of the last hour and a bit, and also a massive thank you to everybody who's engaged with us today, and a massive thank you to Eddie, Eugene, and Al Ben as well. That's it from us this week. We will be back next week. If there's any things you do want us to discuss going forward or in further shows with the two boys for next week, please put it in the comment section below, and we'll be sure to bring it up and ask questions about it next week. But guys, that's it from us. Match day stuff tomorrow, pre-match build-up, and also predicted lineup coming out your way tomorrow. As always, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
In the big hands, we trust. We never stop. Enjoy
See
your evening.
everybody tomorrow.
Ooh, there's Postecoglou.